the show started unofficially. We were talking about 5 voices, which is one of the tools in your toolbox that you use to help coach folks and lead folks. For those that are unfamiliar, what is 5 voices and what excites you about it?
Yeah, so 5 voices is, we use the term voice just because of how we're represented, right? Like when we talk, people hear our voice and they know it. And so they're like, oh, okay, after you're around somebody for long enough, you can hear their voice and pick them out of the room, right? So whether it's like your son coming in or your wife or whatever, you're like, oh, hey, I know their voice. People you've worked with before, you know that, oh, hey, that's Tommy or that's Billy or so on and so forth, right? You can just kind of know their voice. So it kind of took that where it says voice, but it's talking about your personality and how you're experienced is really what it is. It's a lot of self-awareness. With it, I use it to focus on like the 5 areas of leadership and leadership development, working with teams, things like that. And it's communication, relationships, execution, alignment and capacity. And those, all leadership issues stem from those 5 areas. And so with the 5 voices, we're able to really figure out like, hey, like what's the missing voice on our team? What is it? How do we appreciate, what's really tough is how you and I were talking, like we're both pioneers. And so, which make up 7% of the population. And how you had just gave a great story about like being an executive pastor and everybody was like, oh my gosh, like that's so great. And you're like, man, that is the anointing of God because that was tough. Well, pioneers, believe it or not, even though they make up 7% of the population, they make up 50% of boardrooms. So part of that is just their drive. They just have a different gear a lot of times, but they always fall on like one end of the spectrum. They're never like, oh, they're all right. Like they're either, hey, you're amazing. Like, yo, I loved working with you and for you. And they're on this side of like, that was the worst person. Like they are absolutely terrible people. I don't know how they sleep at night, like so on and so forth. Like the list goes down, right? And so, but we call that the pioneers, like they are the loudest voice. They're the ones who, in just a brief moment where we call it intentional versus accidental. And so we're in a brief moment when we become accidental, we can do a lot of damage in a room because we're the only ones that God made walking around with body armor on all the time. And we thought that was just regular life. Like, oh yeah, like, no, like somebody said something to you and yeah, I'm sure, your wife or somebody would be like,
she's always like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's like, I was like, what? I didn't say it. Everybody was thinking it and they're like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Right. But then when it comes to problem solving and strategic vision, they look and people look and they go, oh my goodness, that is incredible. And if you really dive deep into it too, you can see a lot of Romans 12 in it, which is really exciting.
Unpack that for a sec.
Okay. So in Romans 12, we have the different level of the gifts, right? So you have your 12 fruits of the Spirit, you have your 12 gifts of the Spirit, and then you have your other 5 gifts to the body. Well, then where does Romans 12 fit in? So we find like, oh, hey, to some are given like the gift of zeal. Well, the gift of zeal isn't one of the 12 gifts of the Spirit, but it is a gift given to the body. Gift of hospitality. It's not over here. And so not over there. I heard a message one time and it talked about, the dove that descended upon Jesus. And, so one of those is one of the ways they outlined it was, you had 12 mane feathers on each side and 5 tail feathers. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think that was one of those of just like, hey, I'm going to grab this and it's going to sound cool and it's a good visual, right? Sure. So I'm like, hey, we're going to go with it. And so, but in Romans 12, you get past, hey, if my memory serves me correctly, your body being a living sacrifice, and then holy and acceptable to God, and then living out, and then it goes into what I would kind of deem as, I think there's some personality traits there that God goes, a lot of times we look at these and, oh, this is something we have to change or we have to adapt or whatever it may be, and we sometimes think that. And I think one of the great power of the 5 voices and working with my clients that I've seen is once people get really comfortable in how God wired them, massive success starts to happen. It's almost like this is who God was destining you to be, that you're really living out that purpose. Philippians 2:13, that it's God inside of you, giving you motivation and determination to achieve his purpose for your life. And I think right there in Romans 12, we just kind of overlook a lot of those giftings. And I can't think of them
Gift
all.
of administration as one.
Yes, right? Absolutely, right? But that's not one of the 12. So yeah, you have administration, but think about this, like when it comes to like working with a team or a business, and you had said, y'all had, you were talking earlier about using Myers-Briggs, and it just opened up a whole nother level because you're like, oh, hey, we need to bring these people in, this or that. And I remember I was talking with someone and they were using a different one. They were using a color system, which I think is a disc system, but I could be wrong.
Sounds right.
And they're like, oh, well, we don't hire any reds on our team. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so I didn't know much about it. So I started reading a book. And so ironically enough, the book is called Surrounded by Idiots. And so, so I was like, oh, okay. And which is really funny because I think so many times when we look at people, we don't value how God made them, how God wired them, the gifts that God has put inside of them. We look at that and kind of get the herd mentality of going, well, you're not like me. And since you're not like me, we can't gel well. The chemistry's not there. Or the chemistry's not going to be there. Well, one of the things that we talk about, and I talk about utilizing the 5 voices, is when you can have everyone from different voices using all 5, which is the nurturer, the creative, the guardian, the connector, and the pioneer. You really are bringing everyone together, and you get to see all sides of the mountain. And there is opportunity on all sides of the mountain. In climbing the mountain, sometimes our way is not going to be, actually, let me say it this way. As pioneers, like our way is definitely not the easiest because we love the challenge. Like if, to fire you up, it would just be like, someone just has to come up to you and probably be like, I don't think you could do that. And you're like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need any extra motivation. Like I was actually not even going to take this challenge or this opportunity, but you just decided to come by and tell me that I couldn't. So now I've just got a little bit extra energy, but in knowing those, and I think that's that part of that, like that gift of zeal, where it's like, hey, why are you just excited about this and pointing this in whichever direction? Well, what happens when you get that gift of zeal, but then you can partner it with someone who has like the gift of administration and then go, hey, you take off running and I'll handle the details behind you. And then together we can accomplish so much more.
And you look at a lot of the most successful businesses, for lack of a better term, organizations in general, usually there's that pioneer type that's paired with somebody that's really strong in administration.
Yeah.
Right. And so Disney was the creative, but it was his brother that actually made the business work. Right. Bill Gates was the forefront, but it was his number 2 that really executed on a lot of the details. And they say that's true of almost all the successful people. You look at their number 2. We say that about couples, right?
Yeah.
Behind every successful man's awesome wife, so I think there's a lot of truth to that. Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.